10 years with the Wolves. 4 years with the Sudbury Wolves and 6 years with the Chicago Wolves. I want you to reflect back. I would think that the best moment you had was in '02 when you won the championship. First year the Wolves were in the American Hockey League. Anything else stand out, or is that your most precious moment?
I should have been more prepared for this question because I thought I knew you were going to ask it. But it's funny. I had a chance to sit down with John Anderson last night and just sort of go over some of the memories. And and I know we have the picture. Well, you guys have the picture hanging in the dressing room. But when we came over the boards, that one instance where you jump over the boards when you score, I mean, it's just so impossible to replace that feeling. 3-3 and then overtime. I mean, I still have to say that the Calder Cup and that instant of jumping over the boards, knowing that it was all worth it, was probably my best memory.
Mac, we talked in the first intermission about coaches. Ross Yates, your new coach this year. I've talked to the new guys with the Chicago Wolves this year. They said if you can't play for John Anderson, you can't play the game anymore. Again, talk about John and what he is like as a coach. Everyone talks about him being a player's coach. Give us your input.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that I love Johnny, and I think for two reasons. Not only is he a real good coach, but I think he's a great person, and I think a lot of times in professional hockey you either have one or the other. You have someone who may be a great teacher and not a player's coach or hadn't played, or you might have a guy that's not very knowledgeable but seems to be somehow mingles with the guys and gets along. But I really feel like Johnny has a bit of both, and when you can respect somebody like him, not only off the ice but on the ice, and you look at his record, and I mean, it's no, obviously he has some critics who will say that every year, he's got a great team, but I mean, you still have to know how to play your cards right with those guys and have certain systems, and I've always enjoyed playing for Johnny, and maybe hopefully someday I play for him again.
Let me ask you, the local newspaper early in the season was asking about your time in Chicago, and you were talking, and you didn't hold much back about the first-class way they run the team. Just talk about the difference, what people may not realize, how the Wolves do run their operation.
Well, I mean, it's funny. It's like the extra team in the NHL. It really is in a lot of ways, and it's little things that maybe not as a player or a young guy may notice, but I mean, you talk to a guy that maybe has a family or kids or a wife, and I mean, it's not just how they treat the player; it's how they treat everyone that's surrounded, and what makes you work and what makes you the best on the ice, and that's what they try to do. They try to eliminate any excuses, and that's obviously not the downside of it, but that's the pressure that comes with playing for the Chicago Wolves, is that they eliminate all those excuses, and there are none when it comes to game time, and that's a great feeling. The biggest draw to playing for the Chicago Wolves, I mean, in my case, may have not been the best situation for me to become an NHLer as quickly as possible, but it was the best situation to try to win a championship every year, and for that's why you'll always want to play for the Chicago Wolves.
Having said that, I got to ask you about the ownership, Buddy Myers and especially Don Levin. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's funny, and I catch myself, and I'm trying not to talk about it too much with the guys, on these new teams. But when you sort of talk or come across a few of the stories about how well Don and Buddy treat you, I have to bite my tongue sometimes, because I just start telling stories and start with whether it's a fancy restaurant or just him coming in before the game. I mean, he's just a hands-on guy. You can tell that he has one thing in mind, and that's to win a championship. And that can be sometimes stressful. But like I said, at the end of the day, when he gives you everything you need to win a championship, it's a good feeling.
Sure, absolutely, no doubt about that. Here, you're an assistant captain on the road. It's a little different situation, but I want to reflect back to when you were named the captain of the Chicago Wolves after a long tenure from Steve Malte. It had to be quite an honor, and I would think one of the best attributes that you had this year was being that year was being the captain. Not only does it show to me what kind of player you were, but the quality of person you are.
Yeah, I mean, especially in my situation, I was there, when we had the Dallas Eakins and the Dan Quants and the Bob Nardellas and the Steve Maltes, and I think at any given time with the team we had, any of those guys could have been captains, and I think that was one of the biggest and most helpful things for me. And then obviously, most of the guys who've been around the rink would know that I sat next to Steve for quite a few years, and to see the things that he did and whatnot. When I finally had a chance, to be put in that spot, it was a great honor. I mean, there hadn't been very many captains before that, and I wore it with pride in Sudbury when I played there, and I wore it every night with pride in Chicago, and it was definitely something that I'll never forget.
Before I let you go, last question, and I only remember this. There was a lot of fun things, no doubt about it, through the years, Mac, but I read something that happened here in Syracuse, and I'll never forget, in Hershey in the playoffs, you had a penalty shot, and you could tell us and take us through what happened, but there was a little bit of something about it this year, too.
Yeah, well, you know, if you've been following a little bit, I guess I'll explain this first. I guess I have had a couple opportunities to take a couple penalty shots, and I've been pretty successful here in Syracuse. So the question arises, you know, like, what's your record in the past? And first and foremost, I said, well, you know, I haven't taken one in forever, and I have taken one, and it was in the playoffs against Hershey, and I got hauled down on a similar play that I had here earlier, and it was funny because no one else knew the joke, but when I was at center ice before they gave me the whistle to go down, I leaned on my stick 3 or 4 times to the point where it almost should have broke. But what I didn't do years ago when I got that penalty shot was lean on my stick, and when I got hauled down, I cracked my stick and didn't realize it. When I went down to take a shot against Hershey in the playoffs, the puck didn't move and my stick went in 2 pieces, and that was my only memory of a penalty shot before that. So that was the one good thing. When I did get one this year, I said it can't be worse than that. So that was it.
One of my funniest moments to see that take place. Derek, first of all, best of luck. Hopefully you make it to Columbus. You definitely deserve it. And as I said to start this interview, one of the classiest guys, one of my favorite guys in my 6 years here with the Wolves. Best of luck.
Thanks a lot, Billy.